Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. We're going to go ahead and jump right into this Miskatonic Monday, which I'm calling because I'm hoping to educate you on, I don't know why I'm calling it that. I like the alliteration, but let's go ahead and get into this. So this game is obviously a work in progress. It says the audio, visuals, gameplay mechanics, and difficulty presented in this demo are subject to change. Saving does not work in the demo yet. We recommend using gamepad and headphones. So I do like, you look at it and you can see, I'm someone who's done a bit of embroidery, so you can see the embroidery stitches moving. To catch everybody up, this is Scarlet Deer Inn. It first came to my attention because of the really interesting animation style. The brief description here is an embroidered narrative platformer with an emotional story, an interesting cast of characters, a dark dungeon full of monsters, and a world inspired by Slavic folklore. The only thing protecting you from certain death is your torch, and all character images are actually embroidered. And for me, that's really cool. As someone who's done actual embroidery by hand, watching this is really neat. I mean, look at this. They've obviously embroidered the various poses. Apparently, it does work on Steam Deck. It is an embroidered narrative platformer with an emotional story, an interesting cast of characters. We already about that part. Meet colorful characters and enjoy emotional stories full of unforgettable experiences. Look out for shortcuts in the dark, which will make your next walkthrough easier. Admire the beautiful hand-painted backgrounds and traditional animations. Listen to the folk music inspired by the Middle Ages and performed on traditional instruments. Discover the story of Elise, a mother of two. She's not exactly extraordinary, and there are no heroic epics written about her. Her circumstances will make her explore places full of interest and unusual, as well as dark and terrifying situations. Apparently, this is the team behind the game. Atu is a husband-wife team from the Czech Republic. We tried to make everything ourselves, from drawing and animation and storytelling to programming, music, and publishing our game. Scarlet Deer Inn draws inspiration from the amazing movies made by Ghibli Studios, medieval Europe, and Slavic folklore. So, that is the quick rundown on the game. Now we will go ahead and try to play the game. All right, that music is really beautiful. Let's look at the game options. Controls, sound volume. Let's turn the music volume down just a little. I like it, but I don't want to be drowned out. And then a whole lot of stuff not working in demo yet. I love that that is a piece of embroidery fabric. You can play it in English or Czech. That's cool. I don't speak Czech, so we'll play it in English. Here is the, obviously, beginning of the game. The look of the movement, the little bits of what is embroidery fabric that is used for the word bubbles is really cool, along with the animation on the letters to give them more emotion. The constant kind of movement of the embroidery thread might be distracting to some people maybe, but I think it's pretty cool. It starts out really basic, obviously they're showing you how to interact with things. It's just sweet. It's got a very bright feel. Plays on a controller, in case I forgot to say that, even though I'm pretty sure I did say that. You'd think I know I edit the video. But yeah, just the way that everything's on the little embroidery fabric, you get to see Horace, the little toy, and the whole thing. It gives you this very comfortable feeling, putting you in a very pretty world. One of the things that makes me a little disappointed in the game is the fact that they're not enough of the background music. It is a very gorgeous score, and I would definitely like to hear more of it. I think that a lot of it would also heighten the emotion that they try to weave throughout the game. So I am looking forward to if they add a bit more of that. But you really do notice quickly how little of it there is, unfortunately. So just a random piece of self-information, I suppose. My family is actually Czech. The family that came over from Europe is actually Czech. So I have some pieces that my great-great-grandmother who immigrated had done, and they're basically, the stuff on the edges is exactly like that, so that's kind of cool for me. The portrayal of the children along with the mother actually seems really, really well done. The child here interrogating this poor inn stayer, goer, whatever. You don't really learn a lot about anybody just yet, just because it is a pretty short demo, but I do think it's still worth playing. But the way the kid here pelts him with questions gives a nice little bit of insight into the direction that they're going with character development, which you see a little bit more of that in just a moment. The first real exposure you have to how some of the mechanics are going to work in the later parts of the game is here in this basement area where you travel back and forth and the light shows you where you are. It also demonstrates that you have to be aware of what's going on in the background because it doesn't automatically mark where and when you can interact. So it is important to pay attention to your surroundings, which is something I really enjoy in this kind of game where it makes you actually pay attention as opposed to so many others which sort of hold your hand. Interesting. Okay. We have some quality wines down here, but maybe something paltry will suffice. The old lady won't know the difference anyway. Well, that's not nice. I like the way they are structuring the language. Ah, goose. Here you have another little bit of interesting character development where they go through with this little old lady and they really give you that feeling of someone who is just entitled to everything, manipulative. And when you get further into the story, you kind of see where it could tie around into other things. It's very fascinating, really is. There's also this really cute part where you can pet the cows. You seem to be able to pet most of the creatures in this game, which as an animal lover, I deeply appreciate. Adding that kind of touch, especially when you're doing a new type of animation, or I guess maybe not new, but a unique type of animation, such as this whole embroidery thing. Thinking that out and having to plan it is actually really fascinating. Again, in my opinion, this is definitely a labor of love and is not going to be something that'll hit the mainstream, but I do hope it gets at least some form of recognition for what it is. While everything in the game seems to be, sunshines and rainbows, and you're just starting on this little quest with this mom of 2 kids who, she's running errands for people in town, getting ready for a fair and all that. This is where you start to see something turn. And it's actually quite fascinating when it starts because I know it probably sounds like I'm giving this 1-hour demo a lot more depth than it has, but for me, it does have a lot of interesting tidbits that you can really just sink your teeth into if you're one of those people who likes to dive into these things and think about these things, follow these little trails. And here they really do start to show you just the odd little bits of what's going on. It's really subtle and kind of odd, like from the way the old lady talks initially. You think you're just going to run over here and everything's going to be okay, but all of a sudden everybody's calling her an old hag and telling her she can shove cake up her ass. And so you're like, okay, well, there's something more going on here. And then you get a little further along yet, and you've got the husband who tells you that his wife is with the priest. And if she's not there, he doesn't know where she is. And the priest who tells you the wife's out at a pagan altar. And before you know it, you're kind of like, well, that's a little odd. I don't know quite what to think here. So here is where the tone of the game really does take a huge switch up, and the reveal here is just really, really, really good. So I'm not going to actually show the whole thing just because I think that it should be experienced, but we are going to skip a bit ahead, and this is where it really does start to show its platformy goodness, which I just genuinely enjoyed playing through. There were a little moments where I thought it might be just maybe a little too simplistic, but at the same time, I have to keep in mind that it's a demo and it does still show a lot of promise. As I said, it reminds me a lot of Ori, both games. And I think that if that is the tone they choose to keep throughout the rest, that it will absolutely be worth a playthrough when they're done. A combination of a beautiful aesthetic and the promise of really good gameplay has me eager to see what they come out with when this finally releases fully. So I do think that this is probably a game that if you are into platformers, if you are into things that aren't necessarily based on the lore and stuff that we generally know, that we can generally recognize, because not a lot of people really know Slavic tales. One of the things I would like to see is definitely if they provide more in-depth information about exactly where they're going, what they're taking from, what they're drawing from in Slavic folklore, just because folklore in general really fascinates me. I would like to see how they handle that. But yeah, I think that this is an amazing game, or I think it's a good demo. Let me put it that way. I think it's a very good demo. Very excited to see what the rest is. The quality of this demo is really good. It still, like I said, it's a little short. It took me about an hour, and that included one little spot where I got a little lost. I had to take a few seconds, well, more like a couple minutes, 10 minutes or so, to figure out where I was supposed to go next, which is actually something I like in a good platformer. And then, of course, there was the spot where I died again and again and again before I finally managed to get through it right. But yeah, I think I keep repeating that. This is a demo that you should check out. Wishlist the game, help encourage the developers to move along with it, because I think it'll be something good when we finally see it. And I like to encourage people to make things that are new and interesting. With all that said, it is that time of the week where I extend my deepest of thanks to those who are members on this channel. The fact that anybody chooses to support me monetarily is amazing, and I cannot tell you exactly how much I appreciate it, because the money is never expected, always welcome. The fact that anybody is willing to spend their most precious of commodities with me, their time, means the world to me. So those who choose to also spend their money are amazing. But members on the channel here are DX Machina NZ, Emperor Doomsday, Snake Oil Sean, Schmitted, Amogo, Green-Haired Anti-Liberal, Narrator 45, Felix, Mechanical Cats, Drew Cipher, Cloud Strife, Soulblade Hero, Dragon Cross 89, Mark Cochran, Raging Bull, McCock, Generic Edgelord, Dave Sanchez, and Stormborn. I also have to extend a most gracious thank you to Silver over on Ko-fi, Coffee, whatever you want to call it, for sponsoring me over there. And everybody who has so far donated to the Get Me a New Mouse Fund. I cannot even begin to tell you exactly how much I appreciate that, because I'm just about ready to throw this out the window. But as soon as YouTube pays me for the month, I should actually be able to get a new one. Thank God. There are a few people who were kind enough to donate on streams and again through Ko-fi, whatever. And I just thank you so much. For those of you who want to support, you can definitely become a member. You can support me over on Ko-fi, if you don't like to give your money through YouTube. And for those who may not be looking for something quite like that, I do have a Throne wish list. It doesn't have my mouse on it because apparently they don't have the mouse I want on there. But it mostly has stuff for my pets and a little bit for me. And the next thing after the mouse is figuring out how I'm going to build myself a new desk, because this arrangement isn't working for me, and well, it's time for something new, but one step at a time. First, I think actually I'll be focusing on emotes for the memberships, because I haven't done that yet, because I am a terrible person. All that said, what do you guys think about this game? I think Scarlet Deer Inn looks fantastic. Like I said, I highly encourage you to play the demo. It's short, it's sweet, but it does give you a really good taste of what the game I think should be like, and I hope that it fulfills the promise that it makes within the game, because I think it will be great if it does. But as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.